The following program will make you want to grow things and experience new and wonderful dreams about your plants, garden, and garden design. Listener participation is always strongly advised. Good evening and welcome to Down the Garden Path with your hosts, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101. To contact us live in the studio, dial 905-725-1907. Toll free anywhere in North America, 1-866-905-7325. Worldwide, 1-866-656-5477. Send us an email right now, instudio101@gmail.com. And now, your hosts of Down the Garden Path, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here once again and joining us on a Monday evening. Welcome to Down the Garden Path, where each week we discuss down-to-earth tips, advice for your plants, gardens, and landscapes. Matthew and I think it is important and possible to have great gardens that are low maintenance, and we do everything we can to help you with that. I am Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and owner of Down to Earth Landscape Design for the past 10 years. I know, I almost forgot what I was my company name. I know. And it is currently a design-only business here east of the GTA. And with me again this evening is Matthew Dressing. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you, Joanne. Welcome, everybody. I am Matthew Dressing, local horticulturist, garden center, do-it-all, local horticulturist. And Joanne and I, we enjoy doing Down the Garden Path every week with you.
We enjoyed it so much that Gary had to wait for us to stop talking to start the show, right, Gary?
Yes, we're always looking out for you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. So that's how much fun we're having, you guys. All right.
And we're bringing you interesting, relevant, and helpful topics to achieve your great garden. And we learn right along with you from each other, from our research, and from the guests that join us on the show. So we welcome all your questions and comments via social media, emails, or calls.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us down the garden path, everyone.
Thank you.
And it's another day. It's fall. I think when we were here last week, it was summer. Again, we had that hot week.
It was
a hot weekend and hot. Like, it was unbelievable.
Blistering.
So a lot has changed in a week.
Yeah.
We are actually in fall. You're wearing a sweater. I'm wearing a sweater. You know, we're no longer sweating and sunburned. So a lot has changed.
It has. It's much cooler, much nicer.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, no complaints, right?
No, I absolutely love it. I keep saying if I were a plant, I'd probably be a shade plant. I just
really?
Yeah, I like the brightness and the warmth of summer, but too much is too much.
Too much is too much. So that's interesting. I never thought what I would be.
Yeah. And then it's more interesting if you think of exactly which plant. Would you just be a hosta, or would you be like a toad lily?
It would not be a hosta.
Or something really interesting.
Okay.
What plant would you be?
Weeping white pine. Me and my weeping trees. There you go. There's a question for all of us. If we're going to be a tree or a plant, what plant would you be?
What plant would you be? Yep.
All right.
So write in. Tell us what
plants would you be? Would you want to be? So what's happening at the garden center?
You know what? It's fall and there's lots of fresh plants.
Really?
Big
Okay.
sales. Our place is down now to 60% off a lot of its stock.
Okay.
But we're still ordering fresh stuff from our farms and from our suppliers. So there's lots of exciting things to go on. Insects and pests, because, I mean, we had that big thing about bugs all summer. I mean, they're pretty much done now. There's really just getting ready for...
I can unhang my...
You can unhang.
Unhang my Japanese beetle yellow thing in my garden? Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, bring down your Japanese beetle traps, everyone.
Okay. And throw it away, or do I reuse it for next year?
You can usually just throw it away. The little baggy ones are $15, $20, and they're just cheap.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't your 15 no.
No, it wasn't mine, but
yes. No, that's fine.
Yeah, and if you've got the big, there's a big plastic one. It almost looks like a bomb from Bugs Bunny, from like Looney Tunes or Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Keep that one. The lure, you can rebuy the lure. If your bag's in good condition and that doesn't smell or it didn't really get nasty all summer long, you can use the same lure and put it into that trap and just spend another $15. But or it's $15 where I sell it from. But at that point, you may as well just buy another bag.
But for $15 for me to like wash out that bag,
and store it and then
one.
Keep it exactly.
No, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good. Take that back. If you're frugal, unlike me, and you're okay with washing out that bug stuff, then go for it.
Exactly.
Winterize your Japanese beetle trap for next year.
Other than that, fall is in full swing. A lot of the suppliers actually are now out of mums and asters and kales. So grab what you see because it may be ending. I know we generally end our plants or do the switch at Thanksgiving. And it is a little bit earlier this week. Yeah. Or this year, this week. It is, I guess, this week coming. Yeah, so you'll kind of start to run out of stuff. So if you haven't done that fall planter, jump out and do it for Thanksgiving now. You won't
That's
find stuff
interesting
later.
that you'd be out because it was so hot. I don't know that people were buying them.
No, and a lot of people were. We actually ordered a lot less because of that heat wave, for sure. And people are now coming in that it's cool and you're going, well, where are your mums? Well, they blew over the last 2 weeks and everyone bought them up because of the cool spot at the end of August, beginning of September that now there's nothing to go get. Yeah. So, grab what you can.
Weather makes it tricky.
It totally does.
Yeah. And how are the bulb sales?
Again, because of the heat, there are people who are coming in getting them, like those hardcore, got to get my alliums. Got to get my, all the Canada ones that we were talking about before, totally gone. Can't reorder. So your Canada 150s, if you were waiting on it, go tonight or tomorrow. And other than that, that warm weather really slowed things down. Yeah. There's more action in the bulbs from the chipmunks who grab the lowest one and then run out and just put them on a juniper.
Yeah. Is there like, it must be when you order them, there's like a calculation with how many are going to go to the chipmunks and squirrels. That's interesting. So, yes, I was trying to make my way to the store on my way here to the show, but then realized I'd have to make a left into traffic, and so I chickened out. But I'm going to go tomorrow because I still need nematodes. Please tell me you still have nematodes.
We still have nematodes, and it is still time to do nematodes.
Okay.
You can still do it. Yeah.
Okay, because I've been watering my lawn. I think my neighbors think I'm like off my rocker, but I've been watering the lawn, which is what I need to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want that upper inch and a half really wet.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'll be by tomorrow to get some bulbs and get my nematodes. Yeah. Also, wasn't sure if I could leave them in the car. Like, are they like poinsettias? Like, can I leave them in the car unrefrigerated?
Yeah, it's cool enough now.
Is it? Okay.
It is cool enough now. Okay. If it was like last week when it was really, really hot, they would have baked within an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you can do them.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, everybody. So it's still good time to get your nematodes. Yep. Start watering your lawn. Mm-hmm. You have to go over those instructions once again. I won't make you do it on air to torture the poor listeners, but I'm just having a hard time getting how to do it. So that's what I've been doing in my yard is I can't get over the weeds in my lawn. I am so sad. But I've kind of given up. I figure I need to water. And so we haven't been cutting either, because you also said the grass had to be a little bit taller for the nematodes.
The grass to keep it moist, to keep it cool and growing.
Okay.
Yeah. The nematodes specifically, it does help just to keep the soil cool and less watering, etc.
Okay, so I haven't been cutting it, and I've been watering it, and I'm ready to do that. Okay, hopefully. this weekend. So yeah, and weeds in the garden. So I've been waiting for it to cool down because I want to finish planting up my my mulched area that I covered in mulch last year, my health strip, as we call it. So yes, but I have been busy with design still and some other client installs. So I haven't really paid attention to my own garden. So I'm hoping to do that a little bit tomorrow morning because I'm heading out to a nursery to pick up some plants. Nice. And so things are happening. Things still look good, though. I mean, everything's blooming happily, and I think they were happy with Friday's rain. All the plants were certainly happy.
Most certainly.
And stuff. So, but trees are definitely stressed.
Yep.
For sure. And I know I've gotten some emails from clients who've past clients who've just planted trees or use hedges and things like that. And they asked me when should they stop watering. And I said to keep watering, gauge if we're getting tons of rain, but really they could keep watering their use and make sure that it was better to do more like a deeper water. Yeah. Less often, right? Not give it a little bit every day.
No, that does nothing.
Yes. Yeah. So anybody who's just put in plants or had trees installed this year or hedges installed this year, please keep watering.
Right.
Even Friday's rain really wasn't enough. And prior to Friday, we had that hot, 2 weeks, really almost 2 weeks of really unseasonably hot weather. And before that, it was September 7th. So we really, the plants and trees are still really in a drought
they are,
situation.
It's kind of like when we get thirsty, right?
Yes.
Or get that heat stress. Yeah, we get some water in us, but we still got to cool and keep hydrating afterwards.
Yes.
Even though we feel, air quotes, better.
Yeah, a little bit better. So sorry to bring up watering again, but and I think even just the fact that, past clients are still emailing me, asking me about that. It's a common question.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
For sure. So overall, pretty happy with my garden. I'm just dying for it. I was looking forward to it to be cooler so I can move some plants around and transplant and finish planting some more stuff. So yeah. So.
Same in my garden. I've still got a few things that I've picked up recently, some grasses,
yes,
and a rhodo, and I'm still waiting just to plant those. And the leaves are starting to fall, and my leaves are pretty good, so I'm just gonna get my shredding starting.
Okay.
Add that into the garden, and
excellent.
Yeah, just starting to tidy up.
Good time to transplant to dig up a rhodo.
I wouldn't if digging it up, but just because she's trying to form the flowers for next year.
They don't bloom, like they are hidden. They are absolutely hidden in the back of my garden.
Oh, so then if she's hidden and you're trying to bring her out so that she can settle in.
And I'm going to just give her to someone with more shade.
Oh, I would just do that then.
Okay, so that's okay.
Yeah. If you've got an established rhodo and you're hoping it to bloom, I wouldn't do it. But until later and next year after it flowers.
Oh, after it flowers. Yeah. Okay. So if I dig it up, it may not flower for her next year.
Right. Yeah, but you should see the flower buds there now. Yeah. Okay. So and she may still flower either though. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. And we haven't even talked about what we're talking about today on the show.
We haven't even mentioned it.
I know. We went right to our segment. I know. Oh my goodness. So tell us what our exciting topic is for the day.
Well, we're going to talk about winterizing. So we're talking about watering.
Considering it was like summer last week. Now it's winter, everybody. It's winter.
So we're going to talk about wintering. Getting all the roses, your trees, your shrubs, who does and doesn't need protection. What kind of protection do they need?
Right.
Are they being protected properly?
Yes.
Because there are some things that people just think that they do and they actually don't do. Right.
Yeah.
Or they do it, but just the wrong way.
Yeah. And I think it's a good topic because, part of me thought, is it too early? Because nobody's really thinking about winter yet. But all these little products are kind of at the cache and on display and in the flyers. So I thought it would be good to kind of talk about what do you really need and when do you really use it and what's useful, what's not useful. That type of thing. In our opinion, we know we have our opinions, right? And we may even disagree when we get to some of the stuff. Who knows?
You got it.
But so I think it's when you're starting to think about what the garden needs to get ready for winter. I hear Calgary got snow.
Yeah, see,
I know. We're not going to get snow.
We're not going to get snow, but that makes this so much more timely, right? The weather can flip on a dime, and then it's like, I can't do my cedars and it's blowing snow or wet rain and
Yes.
or wet snow. And
Yeah. I have to share a funny story of one of the bloggers I follow from Texas. Pam was sharing on Facebook how she went to, so now she's in Austin, Texas, and she went to a big box store to get a winter cover, their winter, quote unquote, for one of her outdoor spigots. And she goes, I walked in and I'm walking through the store and it is absolutely lit up for Christmas, like Christmas everywhere. And she couldn't find it and asked somebody, where is this winterizing thing for the spigot? And he said, it's not that season yet. It's that those haven't come in yet. That's a seasonal item for winter. And she's like looking behind him at all of Christmas. And she's like,
yeah,
really? Like, so it's just what he was saying and the fact that they were surrounded by Christmas seems so hilarious. So she shared that. And I just thought that was funny. That is just
hilarious.
Totally typical. Like they have so keen to get the Christmas out that the actual useful things that we might need in October, it's not season. It's not time yet. It's not time yet for that. So,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So for sure. So I'm excited to talk about the products today. And if anybody has any questions about their fall gardens, about products that you've seen or you're wondering about or things that you've done in the past and didn't work or did work, please share with us. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
So why don't we pause for a commercial break and we'll come back and talk about winterizing the garden and winterizing products. So thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path here on Reality Radio 101.
Are you wondering why your life isn't moving in the direction that you want it to? Do you ever hear yourself saying, it's like I'm running into walls, or my money flows out as quickly as it comes in? Until about 9 years ago, I used to hear myself say those exact words. I could never figure out what was causing these problems or how to fix them. Well, that's until I started to learn about feng shui and how by applying the principles of it to my home or my office, I could in fact help fix those problems and have my life run smoother. Wow. When you book a feng shui consultation with us at Your Spiritual Connection, we will help you to figure out why things aren't working out in your favor, and we will offer simple solutions to help correct the problems, which will in turn help your life to run smoother.
Contact Trish John of Your Spiritual Connection at 905-391-8801 to book your feng shui consultation today. For more information on any of our upcoming events and workshops, please visit our website at www.yourspiritualconnection.ca. Your Spiritual Connection, helping you to make the connections in your life. The following program will make you want to grow things and experience new and wonderful dreams about your plants, garden, and garden design. Listener participation is always strongly advised. Welcome back to Down the Garden Path with your hosts, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board in the Toronto GTA area of Southern Ontario, Canada, dial 905-725-1907. Toll free anywhere in North America, 1-866-905-7325. Send us an email, instudio101@gmail.com. And now, right back to your hosts of Down the Garden Path, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. You are listening to Down the Garden Path on Reality Radio 101. And Joanne and I are going to talk about winterizing this evening and getting your garden just ready in general for the winter. So there's a lot of different topics about, what plants are in the garden, how they should be protected. Are all plants protected in the exact same way? So, kind of knowing your garden. So things like heucheras, they don't want any winter protection, but except for just their leaves to be left on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we would pull all those leaves away. Or evergreens, right? Do we water them? When do we stop watering them?
Mm-hmm.
How do you protect them?
Right.
That sort of stuff.
A lot of perennials don't really even need any.
No.
Perennials don't really need any winter protection, right?
No, exactly. They really don't. And
Yep.
I think we take snow kind of for granted. We hate it because we don't like trucking out in it
Yeah.
and shoveling it, and it's just a crappy day. But really, snow is the best protection for our garden.
Mm-hmm.
So, hoping for, a good foot of snow and letting it come down.
Yes.
The biggest thing that I probably find in the garden centers is winterizing your evergreens or your cedars.
Okay.
And we were talking earlier just even about your Japanese maples.
Yes.
What do you do for them?
Mm-hmm.
Your rhodos the same way. So rhodos and Japanese maples can be very wind sensitive, especially in that first 1 to 5 years
Okay.
of being planted. So you do want to make sure that they go to sleep with a lot of water in the ground, especially the rhododendrons. Being an evergreen, she will actually draw some of that up and use some of it. She is evergreen. And then also just keeping the wind off of it with a barrier. But a lot of people, especially with the cedar hedges, they put the burlap right on the plant. And that's a no-no.
Right. Huge no-no.
Right, exactly. So don't do that. So it seems like a lot of work, but you do want to set up like a staked fort.
Mm-hmm.
You want to put in, 4 corners or 5 corners, depending on the situation.
Now, you're talking like the cedar, are you talking like an emerald cedars, or are you talking like the hedge cedars?
A bit of both.
Bit of both.
Yeah,
Okay.
a bit of both. Both, either one. I mean, our native hedge cedars, blah, 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 or native where we are.
Yes.
Yeah, they're fairly tough. If they go to sleep with a lot of water, and even if they're fairly young, and you can kind of build a screen around them, for sure, especially in the first year, maybe 2.
Okay.
For sure. And then rhodos and Japanese maples and even your emerald cedars. Yeah.
Okay.
Building that fort to keep the wind off of them is always best. A lot of people like to just tie it really, really tight, put the burlap on it.
Yes.
And they may or may not do it at the right time. It's too warm. And
then they burn. Yes.
Right. So they sweat underneath there and then they just burn yellow.
Yeah. Because I think people think they need protection from the snow, and it's not the snow and the moisture that we want to protect them from. It is the winter wind.
It's the winter winds.
Right. And then in some cases, I think sometimes a bit of sunburn from the winter, depending on where the cedars are, right? Doesn't the snow reflect, and the evergreens can get a bit of a sunburn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so definitely, and I know they sell a kit, don't they, for the Japanese? Well, I specifically think of Japanese maples where it comes with, the 4 or 5 wooden stakes and the strip of burlap where you can already. So they made it really easy for you,
They
right?
did, yeah.
So you can do your wood stakes a foot away, 2 feet away from the center of the depends on the size of your Japanese maple,
Right. Yeah.
and then you're wrapping the burlap around the stakes.
Right.
Not around that. So there's still snow. We still want, moisture coming down and hitting it.
And air circulation within the fort.
Ooh, yes.
Right.
Okay.
But we don't want that burlap to touch so that it burns.
Right.
It just kind of slows the wind, but it still can breathe.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then do the fort about 6 to 12 inches above it, just to kind of help break so you don't get, like on your Japanese maple, you don't get those upper stems burnt off and they don't die back.
Yeah, for sure. So this is where we might disagree, though, because I'm not fond of, to me, if I'm going to put an evergreen in the garden, I don't want to wrap it in burlap.
No, and see, now I agree with you there.
Okay.
And I mean, you and I have been talking water. And,
yes.
I mean, our listeners are like, oh my God.
Enough of the water.
Yeah, I'm going to drown in a minute.
Yeah. No, I mean, so water is important.
Right.
And I've always recommended, so I don't know what you think of this idea. I've always recommended it to my clients because if it's planted in the right spot and it's been watered, then it really should be fine.
Yes.
With the exception, but then you get the whole and snow's not the issue necessarily. It's those ice storms.
Yes.
So then you risk, the ice kind of coming down, the moisture, and kind of separating the branches, and they don't bounce back. Everybody thinks, oh, once that melts, it'll bounce back, and it never does.
It never does.
Right. So I recommend fishing line. Or like a thin, that type of string, to just bind the foliage, like the stems, the internal stems of the cedars together.
You got it.
And so it still looks green. Nobody from a distance can kind of tell that anything's changed.
Nope.
But it just protects, from a heavy snow load or an ice load, that type of thing. And I know, I'm sure our listeners are like, no, we don't want to talk about snow and ice in October. But yes, that's just something to think about.
Agreed, completely.
Okay.
And that's usually, you're right, where a lot of the damage can come from, is that snow and that ice ripping them apart. And they won't come back once they rip open. But you are right as well. I agree with you. Burlap and all that stuff that you put around is because we no longer water. And the natural system of, the mulch and the nice compost, that stuff that normally holds the water, but also all the weeds and other plants that are growing around it that protect the soil and protect the water at their base.
Yeah.
We've removed all that. So the elements are stripping all the water away. Yeah. So
because no one's wrapping the forest in burlap.
No, exactly. Right. Back to that. There's no magical elves that run around in the woods and no, that doesn't happen. Right. But it's got, So I always say water, once the perennials die back to the ground. Thank you. And all the trees lose their leaves. That's the signal, especially for younger planted. So the rhodos, the Japanese maples, the 1 to 5 or 4 or 5 years in the ground, or especially newly planted evergreens like a boxwood hedge or even just a cedar.
Yeah. Once
a week, thoroughly to the bottom of the hole until the ground freezes.
Okay.
And the example is, do you remember like 6 years ago, it was 10, maybe now I'm dating myself or going back even further.
Okay.
But like 6 to 8 years ago, it was 10 degrees here on Christmas Day. It's been a while now.
Yeah.
And the further away we go, it becomes less relevant. But
yes.
Once upon a time, right? Merry Christmas, get the hose. Those evergreens have been losing water. The ground is thawed. They're drawing it up. It's warm enough that they're running through their reserves.
Right. Yes.
So that's how important it is.
My mind just stops at the Christmas that was an ice storm. So I can't go past that.
Yeah.
so that one must have been before the ice storm.
It's such
but
a
anyway,
traumatic event.
I know,
it was
a
like
traumatic
a
event. Yes. Yeah. For sure. For sure. It was. And I didn't even lose power, but I lost trees. The trees fell. Yeah. Yeah. Because they already had ash borer. So my city trees fell and hit the house. Yeah.
Oh, and hit the house.
Yeah. So I am like beyond trans. I can't think past that other Christmas, but what can you do? But so I mean, I know, like I was saying, the client, they asked me about her yew hedge, and it's I find yews a little bit tricky because they normally don't need a lot of water. Like they like it. They don't mind it dry.
No, they don't.
Right, but at this time of year, it's still important because we want them to get through the winter. Correct?
Right, exactly. They're still going to use it, so if they run out, they will burn.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Japanese maples, I'm about to plant one on Thursday for a client. So water.
Yeah, water that whole water in.
Yes.
Yep. And then just make sure that she's got good mulch or just she stays moist.
Yeah.
If you don't use mulch, and some people don't.
Right. And I did already mention, because they asked about what would the fall prep work have to be for them in their garden. And I said virtually nothing except for wrapping the Japanese maple. And I said I would explain for them to how to do it. So definitely. But if somebody has a long cedar hedge, really there's no way to you're not gonna.
No, there's no way really to protect that.
Yes.
In the traditional means of wrapping it and stringing it and
would it be worth, like if it's a brand new, I have another client that has a brand new, and they're actually up north in Lindsay. Would it make sense to just do some stake and do some burlap just from that wind side?
You could, just for the windy side, as high up as you could, just to help break it. For sure. You'd reduce a lot of the stress.
Okay. For the first year.
Stress. Yeah. Yeah, for the first year. Once the tree's established, they usually have access to water that we don't see anymore.
Right.
That, fell 2 months ago or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Japanese maples, evergreens. What else are key things that that we need to protect? I don't think of boxes. It's funny because boxes, I never think that they need it, but they do need a little bit
But
of
they
TLC.
do. Right, yeah. The boxwoods, the euonymus, things like that, right?
Okay.
They're still broadleaf evergreens like the rhodos.
Right.
And they're still going. But the same rules apply that, if you have a really windy spot or you've got, ice coming off, underneath the eaves where you might have maybe
The
not
drip line
cleaned,
kind of thing,
right?
yeah.
Where they're or a little extra exposed, just protecting them that way.
Oh, okay.
Again, doing your twine
Yes.
and wrapping them up that way.
Oh,
Yeah, just
okay.
to prevent anything from coming off.
Excellent. And Sue has written in. Thank you so much, Sue, for commenting. She's thanking us for our advice. And, and that's good. Our show is better than a gardening book. Thank you very much, Sue. We really appreciate that.
Thanks, Sue.
Aside from winter, I wanted to talk about evergreens. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead or jumping out of turn kind of thing. And actually, it was something my son had said when he asked me what the show was about tonight. And I told him, and he said, because we have, I love yews, and any of my clients that are listening know how much I love yews, and I use them in my designs, but they're my little secret weapon in my garden, and that I have front low dense yews along my walkway so that nobody can see all my weeds on the other side. That's my little secret. But the walkway gets salted.
Yeah. So
and I keep killing my yews. So my son Matthew, who's also named Matthew, said to me, "So what do we do so that you stop killing?" Because again, in this year I had to replace them again. And he said, "What can we use?" And I said, "Well, we have to stop using salt first of all."
that's the first thing.
First thing, and switching. So I wanted to talk about that, but also does wrapping them in burlap, like wrapping the yews in burlap? He said, "Is there like a sheet of plastic that we can put?" I'm like, really, literally, I'm gonna have a sheet of plastic, but
yeah. So, yes. First, stop using the salt. Use that
Okay.
magnesium, calcium, that brick friendly, animal pet friendly stuff.
okay,
And then you can usually build. I guess the next thing really is stop putting snow over there. Depending on
it's
where
funny
you are.
because we're not. It's not really the snow. I think it's just the water. I think the water drains. So it's not even the foliage that gets touched with the salt. I think the salt gets into the roots.
It's into the roots. Yeah.
Yes, because my hedge is design is really close to the edge of the stone.
Right on the stone.
Yeah, I know. Well, the new ones I've replaced, I did push back a little bit, but these particular. So I think the runout when we get the melt.
Yeah.
And it was one particular bad year, and where it was a fluke, and that I made it really worse because I just one of those where you go to toss the salt, and it just came out in a big pile.
Oh.
and right there, and I should have dealt with it then. I should have swept it away, but you're in a hurry and you don't. So and then last year I cut them back thinking that they would regrow. And actually, I contacted my arborist because I thought I had scale. And he's like, I don't think so. Thing looks like salt damage. And I'm like, could it possibly be salt damage? And I'm like, it totally could. So, yeah.
Yeah, so kind of like what Matthew was saying. Yeah. Kind of putting something like a barrier up to prevent the runoff from soaking in.
Okay.
And she should get enough water from the other side of the hedge and the groundwater going in that way, which would be clean. Another thing I've seen people do is doing a smaller burlap wall with a very thick layer. So as the snow and the water melts, the salt gets trapped or absorbed into the fibers of the burlap.
Okay.
And it just becomes crusted. So it doesn't eliminate it 100%.
Right.
But it will slow it down and reduce it fairly a large amount.
Because I know Nancy, a mutual friend of ours, she has a boxwood hedge at her front, and she always wraps it in burlap for the wind. Mm-hmm. She's down by the lake, so she wraps it in burlap. But it's pretty established, so I'm always surprised that she does that. But so that's an option. So if you're concerned, you could do little screens for, a newly planted, because I know people think of that for large evergreens, but sometimes even a low boxwood hedge, maybe for the first year, you could just do a little row of, or a little screen of burlap, and that might protect it.
Yeah, and usually they're very visually invasive as well, because you're looking out your front window, and, it's on the driveway side. Usually the front window's in the middle of the lawn. So you should be able to see the back side.
Yes.
And very minimally see that front row.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could always dress it up with things for Christmas. And
yeah.
There's decorative burlap and things like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. You know what my thing is that I like is a product called Wiltproof.
Ah, okay.
And I describe it to my guests in my garden center as organic liquid burlap.
Really? Is that how you... And I didn't realize it was organic. Okay.
Yes.
Because we've talked about this on the show prior to you joining us. We have talked about that, but I'd love to hear your take on it. So I didn't realize it was organic.
Yeah. So I believe it's a naturally harvested or sustainably harvested pine oil based type thing. And what it does is as you spray it on, it is kind of glistening and milky as it starts. It kind of smells interesting. I won't give you the words that we use, but stinky. Yeah,
it's a little stinky.
It's a little stinky. It will fade as it dries.
Okay.
And it tends to. What it does is, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. What it will do is the pine oil naturally, without damaging the plant, blocks the stomata on the leaves. So those are the little cells that open and close and regulate the water release and the heat release.
Okay.
From the leaf into the air. So it blocks those. So it protects them from allowing the wind from ripping out water from them.
Okay.
The other neat thing is that it dries in layers. So if you imagine, like, going back to high school, sedimentary rock kind of thing, right?
Okay.
You can see 2 layers of stone.
Okay.
So the wilt-proof, you can, yeah.
I was thinking 2 layers of sweaters, but no, sedimentary rock. Okay.
There you go. Okay, 2 layers of sweat. That's a much better.
No, I was cool with the rock.
So they each act independently. So you spray it once, give it a week. The pine oil will, solidify into its form. But the next layer you spray on actually will work independently of the other. Right, so they separate. Okay. One's liquid, one's hard, and they kind of separate. So they're 2 layers of stone. So as the wind knocks this wilt-proof away, there's another layer underneath, and this lasts for 3 to 5 months.
Ooh, okay.
So you have 3 to 5 months on the upper layer, and wind slowly picks at it away.
So that's interesting. So I didn't know that you were supposed to apply it a few times.
You can. You don't have to, and it doesn't say to do it.
Okay.
Just one of the ways that it works. So, I mean, you can put it on, wait a couple weeks. As long as it's above 5 degrees, go out and do it again.
Okay.
And the great thing about this is, unlike the burlap, the wilt-proof is clear.
Ah.
So that's why I say it's liquid organic burlap. So you cover everything and protect it. Okay. And you still get to, like we were saying, right? I agree with you completely. Why would you want to wrap an evergreen? It's meant to be looked at all winter.
Yeah. And the printed burlap do not take away that fact at all.
No, it does not.
It does not make it better.
It doesn't.
Because your burlap has pictures of flowers on it. No, it does not.
Oh, no flowers. That's even worse.
Yeah. Now, so what can we use the wilt-proof on? Boxwood?
So you can use wilt-proof on any evergreen.
Okay.
You can use wilt-proof on your fresh cut Christmas tree.
Right.
And bring it inside. Prevent it from losing the water.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that wilt-proof can be used on living fleshy things like echinacea or haconocloa. And what it does is, because it's organic and it doesn't absorb it and burn or damage the plant, it just oils them. The plant can still breathe and it do air and moisture exchange. It will prevent and slow the loss of water in drought situations or new plantings or things like that. So you can spray your plant it.
Even not in winter, like in the summer.
Dead of the summer, hot summer. I would, like all treatments, I would make sure that it's at least 27 degrees or lower.
Right.
Once you get way up there, things can get a little iffy.
Okay.
Or just make sure you do it first thing in the morning or late in the evening.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you can use this all year round as part of your transplanting success solution. As well.
Very interesting. I had no idea, because it seems to be something we talk about only in the fall.
Only in the fall and the winter. Exactly. And it will work on all of those fresh cut Christmas green boughs, right?
Yes. Though we're way too early to talk. If we're talking cold, we're talking way too early to start talking about that. But we'll bring that up again when we're ready to talk about your Christmas containers, right? Your winter containers.
So keep that in mind too.
Excellent. So we do have a question from Elise. How much water for everything? Should we drench? So how do we know because again, we're getting cooler nights now and a bit of rain. So and we want you to water deeper, like less often, but deeper. Right. But would you consider it a drench?
Yes, a slow, thorough.
Okay.
I wouldn't say drenching, at least to the point where it's like suddenly you're in a swamp somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, you want to make sure that water is slowly getting down and deep absorbed to the bottom of that pot, the bottom of that hole that you dug.
Right.
Because, when we pull a plant out of the pot, most of the roots are in that bottom half of the pot.
Right.
So we need to make sure that they're very wet.
But if it's an established tree, it's kind of hard to tell, right?
It is very tough for established tree. So just a good thorough soaking. You can leave, a sprinkler on, or you can even just put the end of your hose at the base of the plant or along the drip line, depending on how big it is, and just turn it on so it's kind of trickling. And over 2 to 3 hours, if you just imagine, the lawn, and you can kind of see the soil underneath, like you're looking at a 2D graphic, just this big teardrop of water just kind of expands into that zone over, 1 hour to 3 hours, depending on what it is. Yeah. And that's usually enough. Okay.
And then I would say once a week or so, depending.
Right. And once a week is more than enough. Just kind of like the evergreens, right? Yes. And like you said, with less sun and cooler temperatures, the water really doesn't evaporate as quick unless you're in a very windy spot, because wind damages just as much as sun and everything else.
Yeah, definitely. And just think about because I know some of mine I do the hose thing, but if there's a bit of a slope, keep an eye, because then then I've really watered the grass on the other side of the tree because the water's run off. So you have to kind of play with that a little bit. I do if you are thinking about trees, Elise, I really do love my gator bag. I have to say that's been a big help.
Right.
I'm even giving it, I'm loaning it to neighbors, and kind of putting it around their tree. And then when they see that I put it on their tree, they fill it up with water. So I think that's a good solution for someone with trees.
For sure.
Yeah.
Another thing is Ross root feeders. So,
I have one, and I haven't used one in a long time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's a large needle device you hook up to your hose. You can add fertilizer, just do water, and you go around the drip line, and it superchargedly, that's no word, it really forcefully pushes water right into the root zone. So you can water just 2 minutes. You pull it out, you move over 2 feet along the drip line again, a couple minutes, and she'll get a very good, thorough, filled watering right where she's looking to feed.
Yeah. Excellent. So even if your neighbors think you're crazy by having the sprinkler on, now is a really important time. So, and we spend a lot of money on our plants, and we want to make sure that they make it through the winter. And if it's something as simple as,
as a little bit of extra water,
then I think it's worth it.
I always draw this to the pet thing, right? You really wouldn't question how much water your dog or your cat wants, right? But plants are living organisms too, right? Yep. They act a little differently. They totally different things, but they still need it like we and they do.
Yeah, and they've got the weather that kind of helps or doesn't help sometimes.
Exactly.
Right? Create some challenges for them. So, what else should we talk about? Do we want to pause for another commercial break?
Sure, let's talk. Okay. We'll pause for another commercial break, and then another big question we can maybe discuss afterwards is roses.
Roses. Excellent. All right. Well, you are listening to Down the Garden Path here on Reality Radio 101. We'll be right back.
Are you wondering why your life isn't moving in the direction that you want it to? Do you ever hear yourself saying, it's like I'm running into walls, or my money flows out as quickly as it comes in? Until about 9 years ago, I used to hear myself say those exact words. I could never figure out what was causing these problems or how to fix them. Well, that's until I started to learn about feng shui and how by applying the principles of it to my home or my office, I could in fact help fix those problems and have my life run smoother. Wow. When you book a feng shui consultation with us at Your Spiritual Connection, we will help you to figure out why things aren't working out in your favor, and we will offer simple solutions to help correct the problems, which will in turn help your life to run smoother.
Contact Trish John of Your Spiritual Connection at 905-391-8801 to book your feng shui consultation today. For more information on any of our upcoming events and workshops, please visit our website at www.yourspiritualconnection.ca. Your Spiritual Connection, helping you to make the connections in your life. Welcome back to Down the Garden Path with your host Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101. to send us an email. Do so right now. Our email address is instudio101@gmail.com. And now, right back to the experts that you've come to know and enjoy. Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Thank you very much, Gary. Thanks, everyone. Welcome back to Down the Garden Path. I'm Joanne Shaw, and with me is my co-host, Matthew Dressing. And thank you for listening to our little chat about winterizing and winterizing products for your garden. Mm-hmm. So we've covered a lot of stuff.
We have.
And I'm sure, like I said at the beginning of the show or midway through the show, they're all the products you're starting to see, near the cache, whether it's at a garden center or at a big box store. Yep. And you're wondering if you need them or if you don't need them. And one of the big things that, is a really big item to protect for winter, everybody gears up this time of year, is roses.
Roses, exactly.
Roses. There's lots of little marketing things around roses.
There is.
Please tell me we're not going to recommend those styrofoam little teepee igloo thingies.
No styrofoam.
Okay.
Or fiber teepee thingies.
Okay. Phew, technical terms, I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Take it away. What do those roses need?
Really, a lot of the roses we grow for, obviously, the pretty roses. Mm-hmm. But not necessarily all the ones that are pretty have a hardy rootstock. So some of them are, their roots are actually tropical and will not survive here. So a lot of the roses that you find here are grafted. So they have a hardier rootstock, like a shrub rose or something, attached to a much prettier upper part.
Okay.
So what we want to do for winter is make sure that we protect the graft.
So can I stop you for a sec? So is that like hybrid tea? Like, can you narrow it down more specifically? Like, are we talking hybrid teas? Are we talking floribundas?
So you pretty much almost everything except for carpet roses, shrub roses. Usually your grandifloras, your hybrid teas, your floribundas.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, those main three.
So phew, because I only have I have carpet roses. So
yes,
good. Okay.
So you're good there.
Okay.
You're good there. So yeah, that graft, if the winter gets into that graft or can stress that graft, we can lose the upper part of the rose. The roots itself will live.
Okay.
And then the rootstock, because she is alive, realizing there's no one up top to feed, will start growing her own stalk out again. Oh. And then you get this, well, that's not what I planted.
I see.
Right.
Yes.
So we want to protect the graft. So how do we do that? So you've probably seen something or heard of something called a rose collar. Okay. It's basically a little plastic sheet, if you will. The ones that I sell are green.
Okay.
They're about 3 feet long, about 12 inches tall or 1 foot tall.
Don't they look like a roll of like little green snow fencing?
Yes.
Yes.
And
okay.
It's very little holes. It's like little green snow fencing. That's exactly it. So just basically what you're going to do is if you have one of those three, you can cut them back. So you can cut back your roses.
Okay. Now
or when they're ready to go, because I know some of the roses that are out there. We're just looking over at the screen, and just as we're talking about roses, Carla's written in, if she was a flower, she would be a rose.
Yes, we talked about that at the top of the show. We both have to think about what we would be, and thank you very much, Carla, for sharing that you would be a rose. And we were talking about roses.
Yes. And I hope you have someone to keep you protected and warm for the winter too.
Yes, that's right. So not quite yet because they're still blooming, right? Okay.
We do want to see a bit of a cool down and a frost, and we've had it threatened because we were down to 2 the other day up at the garden center.
Okay.
But we do want to get some cool weather and some good threatening regular, even during the day, some good cool temperatures. Because just like the cedars, you can put the rose collar on and fill it with the stuff, which I'll describe in a second, and you can sweat the graft out and kill it too. So there's a bit of a timing thing there.
Yes. So having a good frost, waiting for a frost is
waiting for our first light or a good frost, and then cutting her back. The leaves have dropped. She's drawn in her energy. And then you're going to basically use this collar. You know, sometimes they're a little wider than not, but find out how wide they are. Set it up so it's just a perfect circle. It's like a little cylinder that's going to go over your rose.
Okay.
Bury it in a bit if you can, just like a half an inch or so, and fill it with some soil on the edge. Or leave it on top, but make sure you mix some soil or compost in with some leaves.
Okay.
And you're going to mound this up around the base of your rose up to about 6 inches
On the inside of the collar?
Correct. So you're going to round it, and then you're going to wrap the collar around.
All right.
And then you're going to use another few inches, about 3 inches from the collar outwards, around the edge of the collar. And the moisture in the soil and the leaves will freeze the collar generally in place.
Okay.
If you've got a really windy spot, bite it into the ground. Dig that 1/2 inch to an inch, bury it a bit, and put it in there.
Okay. Does it come with little stakes that help you?
It does not.
Okay.
It does not. So you could just use some spare bamboo just to kind of, stick them in the ground and then force it into that way.
Okay.
Depending on the holes in the one you get, you could weave something through it and stick it in the ground as well.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Or if you have little tent pegs or ground staples, you can push it through one of the holes.
Now, does that, so that's protecting it from wind and protecting it from cold. Does it, because I know that one of the issues with doing some of those things that people recommend for roses is rodents get in. So will the collar kind of help prevent the rodents from?
Yeah, especially if you bite it in. They can't dig underneath it.
Okay.
Or go over it or chew through it kind of thing because you've got that 3-inch layer of stuff and that compost and that leaf debris. They generally will warm up and kind of hang out there first.
Okay.
Right. And then usually if you get a cold frost and it's really starting to turn, hopefully they've already found a place enough already. They kind of instinctually say, hey, hold on.
Yes, so they're not looking. That's another reason not to do it too soon was because then you're just made the bed for them. Right.
You're making a bed. Yes. Your rose is sweating. Yes. They're moving in. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Kind of like our tulips, right? Planting them after the rodent or the good cold.
Yes.
End of October, they're building houses and they're doing other things.
Yeah.
They've got their food.
For sure. Okay. Anything else? So you're also the huts and stuff and the cones. You're not a fan.
I'm not a fan. I don't think they give you enough air circulation in there. And if we get a weird thing at the end of February where it's just really, really warms up and holds for a day or two,
they're going to start to grow.
They're going to get to grow
it's like
because
a little sunroom.
Exactly. It keeps them too warm.
And the no moisture gets in. Like, so, that, again, going back to like the Japanese maple, we're protecting it from the wind, but we're not wanting to protect it from the water, the moisture, the snow. It still needs that.
Still needs that.
So, so if if you're covering it in styrofoam,
you're cutting off its resources.
Yeah, absolutely. So so that's a good tip. So thank you. I think that's good.
Lastly, for those who are cutting out or pruning their roses down, always think if you put your hand up and spread your your fingers out like you're catching a baseball.
Okay.
That should be the shape of your rose. And where you cut the tip of your fingernail should be an outward facing bud. Because as the rose grows, roses are susceptible to a lot of diseases and insects. It keeps the core open. So there's no crossing branches to clog that up and slow air and sun. So just a healthy thing for later. That's where you want to cut it back to.
Okay. Yes, but we shouldn't cut it right back to the ground.
No, we're not mowing it to the ground. No, this should be 8 to 12 inches above the ground.
Right.
To an outward bud.
Okay. Yeah. So that's still important.
Very.
Now, as far as my shrub, now let's talk all about me. Gary loves it when I do that. What my carpet roses? What do I need to do? Do I need to do anything?
Not really. You could add some mulch or just some soil around them just to kind of help protect them. But usually they're hardy enough, rootstock and above, that they won't really take the winter unless they were already stressed or drought or
doing pretty
attacked
good.
Or something.
Okay. Now I am thinking of transplanting, digging them up and actually giving them to my neighbor, a couple of them. Is that okay?
Yeah, I haven't read anything that has said otherwise.
Okay.
And I know of a few people who have done that. I've done that for a couple friends. Just in the fall, I'll dig them up, move them over.
Yes.
Wait a bit, water them like transplant, and then cone them when they're, or not cone them, but protect them and
protect them.
Build the
way.
wall. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I do not do the cones.
Yes.
I misspoke.
Okay. All right. So that's so that's good to know that if there is a, rose bush, because sometimes, when you plant them, that is the case in one of my situations in that they did get a little bit wider. Like I kind of planted quickly, I'm just kind of squeezing it in. And so they're a little too close. So one of them needs to go. So I planted 3 and I think I might have 5, and I think 2 need to come out, and so that's part of the reason. Because I wanted I'm impatient. Unfortunately, I'm an impatient gardener, and I wanted kind of instant color, and I certainly got it, but not if it's going to be risking the plant. So that was a good time to. I'm looking forward to that to be able to cooling down temperatures to do some of that stuff in the garden.
Some of that. Yeah.
Excellent. Is there anything else you can think of?
Well, you touched another one on with the mice and moving in.
Oh, right. Yes. Burning bushes. What can people do?
Yes. So rabbits are light enough that they'll walk on the snow.
Yes.
So you know what? It looks ugly, those big tree wraps. But, you do want them a little higher. A lot of people, this is so big. Well, yeah, but if we get 4 feet of snow and a rabbit walks across it, you're unprotected.
Right.
And we've seen that. So make sure that you're going to wrap if you need to. If you've got lots of rabbits or mice or moles or voles that are kind of in your area, make sure you protect the trunk of the shrub, though it is asleep, that nice cambium layer that just right under the bark where the food moves up.
Okay.
And like the veins in our wrist, they're right at the surface. The rodents will eat that. It's a nice fresh source of fresh food for them.
Okay, so you're talking about the white tree wrap?
You can do the white tree wrap.
On the trunks, like fruit trees and other trees. Yeah.
Yep. You can do a few layers of burlap. If you have a very sunny exposed area, that might help with the sun scald and the freezing and thawing as well from cracking the trunk.
Okay.
And then you can also use a product called Scoot.
Okay.
And it's a white liquid. It's a taste repellent, so they have to ingest it or lick it or do something like that to get it. But you can mix it 1 part Scoot, 1 part water, and spray it on all your woody shrubs. So you mentioned the burning bush.
Yes.
Rabbits' favorite food. Period.
Yes, burning bush.
Right. And so spray it with it, give it a good coating as long as it's about 5 degrees or higher.
Okay.
As we're hitting the cooler, so it's a little early now. A good rain will dissolve it and start to weaken it. Spray that on there, so then when they go bite it, they taste it. They're like, ew, this is gross, and they will leave it alone.
Okay.
Right. And then again, if just kind of know the areas that you're going to get. If you've got one of those corners, the windy corners that gather all the snow, and there's some plants in there, you're going to paint it a little higher.
Okay.
If you've got it really on the ground, and we get so little snow nowadays, unfortunately, start from the ground up. Make sure you get a good, thorough coating on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I think we covered a lot today. Oh my goodness, where did the time go?
Yeah.
I know.
I was going to say, as it gets colder, I'm sure we'll be touching on a lot of this stuff again.
For sure. We definitely will talk about wilt proof again. There's a lot of uses for it, like we said when we talk about some winter containers, that type of thing. So that'll be good. And and if you've got questions that we didn't cover or follow-up questions, then please write to us. You can always write to us here at the show at instudio101@gmail.com. Joanne at downtoearth.ca.
Yep. You can find me. You can email me directly at mdressing@hotmail.com at the moment. Or you can find me at Twitter at nataffinity on there. Or you can find me on Instagram at Natural Affinity Designs.
Excellent. And downtoearth.ca with the number 2 is my website, and that's where all the social media links are there too. So I love the questions. The Facebook page is a great place for questions as well.
Yeah.
I post a lot of stuff about the show, about different things that we're doing, and share lots of information. So please check us out there on downtoearth.ca. I know the show is Down the Garden Path, but the Facebook page is Down to Earth. And so next week is a holiday. So it's for all our U.S. listeners, it is Canadian Thanksgiving next Monday. So Matthew and I will be enjoying some turkey. Yes. And so we're going to have a repeat episode with Jason Ingling and Davey Trees. It's going to be a whole episode on trees. Nice. He gave that talk about a year ago in November. So it'll be timely information on trees. So we hope you tune in, even though we won't be here live, but we think you will still really enjoy the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so too. I'll be tuning in for sure.
Excellent. So, and we look, and the week after that, we've got a schedule, don't we? We're actually trying to get our act together, everybody. So we're going to talk about monarch butterflies with Kylie Baumel, who's been on the show before, and she's definitely a passionate monarch butterfly person. I don't know if there's a technical term for that. And she's written a new book, and so we're going to talk to her and share with you all about the monarchs that are making their way to Mexico. So, and I don't know if I've seen them more. Like, have you seen them like crossing roads? And you know, it is kind of, if you pay attention, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, you do spot a little more.
Yeah, for sure. So we want to thank everybody for listening to us once again.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to us once again.
And thank you for joining us down the garden path here on Reality Radio 101.
Thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path with your hosts Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101.